Ksoo, man, that's my brother for real, man. He been with me. He been with me every step of the way.
Yungeen Ace and Ksoo, once inseparable brothers in Jacksonville's deadliest streets, are now at the center of a betrayal that's shaking the entire hip-hop world. Million-dollar loyalty, courtroom drama, and whispers of snitching have turned their bond into a battlefield. But here's the question. When your day one is drowning, is throwing money enough, or do you jump in the water too?
From the same block to million-dollar loyalty. They weren't just two rappers trading verses in the studio. Yungeen Ace and Ksoo were brothers in every way that mattered, except by blood. Their roots ran deep in Jacksonville's toughest neighborhoods, places where the average life expectancy for young men felt shorter than a rap verse. Gunfire was part of the soundtrack, and survival meant moving smart, keeping your circle tight, and trusting the few who'd proven themselves under pressure. From the outside, their bond looked unshakable. They'd been side by side for years, sharing food when there wasn't enough to go around, crashing on each other's couches, and watching each other's backs when the streets got hot. This wasn't an image for the cameras. This was forged in real-life or death moments. Ace never hid how he felt. He once told the world, "I love Ksoo like my mama made him." And when Ksoo found himself locked up, facing charges that could wipe out his future, Ace didn't just send words of encouragement. He sent a lifeline. Over $1 million went into Ksoo's legal defense. That's the kind of money that could buy houses, start businesses, and set up families for generations. But Ace wasn't thinking about investments or retirement plans. He was thinking about getting his brother home. The sacrifice was real. In his 2025 track, I'm Sorry, Ace laid it bare. His bank account was hurting. He had a baby on the way, but still, he kept pouring resources into Ksoo's case. In the streets, that kind of move earns respect. It says you're willing to bleed yourself dry for the people who matter. But loyalty here isn't a simple storybook concept. It's messy, it's dangerous, and sometimes it comes with consequences you can't see until it's too late. Because in the streets, the same love that binds you can turn into the very chain that drags you under. Ace thought he was proving himself as the ultimate friend, the kind of man who'd go broke to keep his day one free. But the road ahead would show just how quickly that loyalty could be questioned, flipped, and even used against them both.
When street anthems turned into courtroom evidence. For Yungeen Ace, music was more than a career. It was a way to immortalize the people he loved and the struggles they survived together. Tracks like So Homicide weren't just records, they were street tributes, filled with names, references, and coded nods that his circle understood. Ksoo wasn't just in the background, he was a centerpiece. Ace made sure the world knew his name, painting him as someone who handled business when it came to street politics. But in the courtroom, those same lyrics became something entirely different. Prosecutors didn't hear loyalty or storytelling, they heard motive. They dissected the lines, pointing to specific references as if they were signed confessions. Suddenly, So Homicide wasn't evidence of Ace's loyalty, it was evidence against Ksoo. Words meant to celebrate him were now helping to paint him as a cold-blooded killer. The shift was brutal. On the streets, fans debated whether Ace had crossed a line without realizing it. Whispers of dry snitching started floating through social media. Some argued it was all coincidence, that the feds were just twisting art into ammunition. Others said it didn't matter. Those lyrics had become part of the prosecution's arsenal, whether Ace meant it or not. For Ace, it was a bitter pill. He had already poured over $1 million into Ksoo's legal defense, draining his own finances and risking his family's stability. Now the very music that had helped build both of their names was being used to tear one of them down. That's the kind of irony the streets call cruel, turning love into leverage, loyalty into liability. And yet, this was just the beginning. If seeing his lyrics weaponized hurt, What came next would cut even deeper, because the next major blow to Ksoo's defense wouldn't come from prosecutors or police. It would come from his own blood. The kind of betrayal that doesn't just end friendships or crews, it shatters entire families. Betrayal from blood, the testimony that changed everything. If the prosecutors turning Ace's lyrics into ammunition was a gut punch, what came next felt like a knife in the back. The blow didn't come from an enemy. It came from inside Ksoo's own family. In the middle of a trial already stacked against him, Ksoo watched the unthinkable happen. His father, Abdul Robinson Sr., walked into the courtroom, not to sit behind his son for moral support, but to take the stand for the prosecution. The man who had raised him, the one whose approval meant everything, was now pointing a finger at his own flesh and blood. When Abdul Sr. testified, he didn't hold back. He laid out details prosecutors could use to stitch together a clear picture of Ksoo's involvement. It wasn't vague or half-hearted. It was precise, the kind of testimony that sticks in jurors' minds. In the streets, there's no bigger violation when your own blood becomes the star witness against you. And the family betrayals didn't stop there. Dominique Buddha Barner, once considered a solid part of the crew, flipped and started talking. He gave the court a blow-by-blow breakdown of everything, from planning stages to getaway routes, painting the murders like scenes in a movie. The way he told it, every role was clearly defined, every shot accounted for. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was thick. It didn't feel like a legal proceeding. It felt like a family reunion gone wrong, where every person you once trusted was now lining up to bury you. For Ace, who had spent over $1 million trying to keep Ksoo free, this had to feel like watching the foundation of their brotherhood crumble in real time. The jury didn't take long, just 3.5 hours to come back with a guilty verdict. At just 25 years old, Ksoo was staring down a life sentence. And somewhere behind those cold courtroom walls, the trust that once defined his closest relationships was gone for good. But Ksoo's story wasn't just about betrayal. It was also about the violent path that had led him here. And the next chapter would show exactly how deep that path went. A blood-soaked path of retaliation. For Ksoo, the road to a life sentence didn't start in a courtroom. It started in the streets, with blood spilled that demanded more blood in return. The spark came on January 16, 2019, when his stepbrother, Willie Boss Goon Addison, was gunned down outside a nightclub. Multiple shots to the back and torso. To outsiders, it might have been another Jacksonville murder, but to Ksoo, it was family, and in his world, that meant one thing: retaliation. Weeks later, the first body dropped. On February 23, 2019, 16-year-old Adrian "Bibby" Gaynor Jr. was killed at the Hilltop Village Apartments. Prosecutors say Ksoo and an accomplice rolled in with murder on their minds. When Bibby saw them and tried to run, Ksoo allegedly chased him through the complex in what witnesses described as a hunting expedition. Bibby was shot multiple times in the back and legs. Even after he collapsed near a stairwell, Ksoo walked up and delivered the final shots at point-blank range. 45 shell casings littered the scene, a message as much as a killing. But the violence didn't stop there. On January 15, 2020, Charles "Lil Buck" McCormick Jr. was fatally shot at the Dames Point Plaza shopping center. This time, the killing was caught on camera. According to testimony, Ksoo and his crew had stalked McCormick for hours, following him from his apartment to a temp agency, waiting for the perfect moment. When he left the store, they pounced, chasing him across the parking lot with semi-automatic weapons until he fell face-first on the asphalt. The evidence piled up. Fingerprints on the murder weapon, dashcam footage of the chase, and social media posts where Ksoo seemed to brag about the killings. For prosecutors, it wasn't just violence. It was premeditation, strategy, and pride in the bloodshed. By the time the law finally closed in,
Ksoo's reputation was cemented. To his supporters, he was defending family honor. To the system, he was a calculated killer. And soon, the story would widen beyond personal revenge into one of the deadliest wars in modern hip-hop history.
ATK versus KTA, Jacksonville's deadliest hip-hop war. The murders that put Ksoo behind bars weren't isolated street beefs. They were chapters in one of the deadliest gang wars modern hip-hop has ever seen. ATK versus KTA. Since 2017, more than 20 lives have been lost in this feud, turning entire Jacksonville neighborhoods into open-air battlefields where wearing the wrong color or repping the wrong block could get you killed. This wasn't the kind of rap beef where insults stay in the booth. Diss tracks became death threats, and music videos doubled as hit lists. Every bar had the potential to put a target on your back. For Yungeen Ace, the war hit home on June 5, 2018, his brother Trayvon 23 Bullard's birthday. That night, rival shooters turned what should have been a celebration into a massacre. Ace caught 8 bullets but somehow survived. His brother and 2 close friends weren't as lucky. The trauma reshaped him, planting a hunger for revenge that bled into his music and his moves in the streets. The cycle escalated fast. January 2019 saw the murder of Boss Goon Addison, Ksoo's stepbrother, which set off the retaliatory killing of 16-year-old Bibby Gaynor. In Jacksonville's unwritten street code, these weren't random hits. They were strategic strikes, each one demanding an answer. The feud went viral in 2021 when Ace dropped Who I Smoke, flipping Vanessa Carlton's 1,000 Miles into one of the most disrespectful diss tracks in history. The lyrics openly mocked the dead, and the video, featuring ATK members dancing in golf carts, racked up millions of views. Julio Fulio's response, When I See You, took it even further, filmed in a cemetery while he stood on his rivals' graves. To outsiders, it was shocking. To Jacksonville, it was war in plain sight. Every song release felt like a shot fired, and every shot fired risked becoming the next viral verse. But the conflict wasn't contained by city limits. It would soon spill into other states, proving there was nowhere to hide when your name was caught in the crossfire.
The war spread. No city is safe. The ATK-KTA war didn't stop at Jacksonville city limits. It traveled with the artists, following them like a shadow that couldn't be outrun. In August 2019, the beef proved it had no boundaries when Yungeen Ace was targeted in Waycross, Georgia. What should have been just another out-of-town stop turned into an ambush in a hotel parking lot. Ace survived yet again, but his friend Jeremy Relo Brookins wasn't so lucky. He was killed on the spot, another casualty directly tied to the feud. The message was clear. Distance didn't equal safety. If your name was part of the beef, you could be reached anywhere. Law enforcement estimates now link the ATK-KTA rivalry to over 50 murders, making it one of the deadliest ongoing gang conflicts in modern American history. The violence became so relentless that federal authorities began openly discussing possible RICO charges, a move that could bring down entire crews in one sweep. Then came one of the most high-profile hits of all, Julio Fulio's death on June 23, 2024. It happened on his birthday, a cruel echo of the night Ace's brother was killed on his. Fulio took over 30 shots outside a Tampa apartment complex, the kind of overkill meant to send a message loud enough for the whole city to hear. Several ATK affiliates were arrested in connection with Fulio's murder, though Ace himself remained clean on paper. Still, the sheriff made it clear Ace was under constant watch, saying, "He can't move around without us knowing." That's law enforcement's way of letting someone know their every step is being tracked. The escalation showed there was no industry lane safe from street politics. Music success didn't buy peace, it just put a bigger target on your back.
And for Ace and Ksoo, the lines between career, survival, and revenge had completely disappeared. Next came the inevitable question, one that would test the foundation of their bond. When your brother's drowning in legal trouble, is throwing money enough, or do you jump into the fight yourself? The loyalty question that won't go away. When the dust finally settled, Ksoo was locked in for life, and Ace was left on the outside, still free, still making music, but carrying the weight of a friendship that would never be the same. The $1 million he spent on legal fees, the public declarations of loyalty, the years of brotherhood, they all collided with a cold reality. It hadn't been enough. In the streets, loyalty is currency, and Ace had paid a king's ransom. But in the eyes of some, money alone didn't equal presence. The whispers started. Could he have done more? Should he have been louder? Could he have put his career on the line to fight harder for his brother? Questions like these don't have clean answers, but they stick, gnawing at reputations and relationships alike. Meanwhile, Ksoo's perspective seemed to harden behind bars. He began speaking out about being judged by all-white juries and feeling abandoned by the people he thought would never turn their backs on him. To him, the betrayal wasn't just in the testimony or the verdict. It was in the silence of those he expected to ride with him until the end. For Ace, staying out of prison might have been the only way to keep his career alive and his family safe. For Ksoo, it might have felt like watching his lifeline slowly drift away. That's the paradox of loyalty in the streets. To save yourself, you might have to look like you're leaving someone behind. The bond that once seemed bulletproof was now full of cracks, some from the system, some from the streets, and some from their own choices. And even as the headlines fade, the debate will keep going. Was Ace the ultimate friend, or did he fail when it mattered most? One thing's for sure, this story isn't just about music or murder. It's about how loyalty can build empires, but also how it can break you, piece by piece, until all that's left is the question no one really wants to answer. When your brother's drowning, is throwing money enough, or do you jump in the water too?
The aftermath, fame, loyalty, and lessons learned. After the verdict, the streets didn't go silent. They lit up with debates, theories, and accusations. Social media turned into a courtroom of its own, with fans, rivals, and bloggers dissecting every move Ace and Ksoo had ever made. Some saw Ksoo as a victim of a system that's quick to lock up young black men, pointing to the all-white jury and the way rap lyrics were weaponized against him. Others said the evidence spoke for itself, that his own choices had sealed his fate long before the trial began. Meanwhile, Ace kept moving forward in music, but the shadow of Ksoo's conviction followed him everywhere. Interviews, live streams, even casual posts were flooded with questions about whether he'd done enough. Every time Ace dropped new music, people dissected the lyrics, looking for hidden messages or subtle jabs, proof that the Brotherhood was either still alive or officially dead. And the story also sparked a bigger conversation in hip-hop. Where's the line between art and evidence? Should lyrics be admissible in court, or does that silence the storytelling that's been part of rap since its earliest days? For many artists, Ksoo's case was a wake-up call that what you rap can and will be used against you, especially if you're already on the system's radar. And then there's the loyalty question. In the streets, loyalty isn't just a value, it's a survival code. But Ksoo's downfall showed how fragile that code can be under pressure. Family testified against him, crew members flipped, and the one person he thought would ride with him to the very end was left balancing survival, career, and loyalty in a world where you can't always have all three. In the end, this wasn't just a Jacksonville story. It was a cautionary tale for anyone who thinks fame can outshine the shadows of the past. Because in hip-hop, your past doesn't just follow you. It walks beside you, ready to speak for you in court if the day ever comes.